Have you any sporting events that you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to being able to go to Mexico next year to see the World Cup and to drink a little bit of tequila. I think that would be nice. Yeah,
I think we could do a podcast in Mexico.
I think that
Maybe, I think
brilliant.
I think
Yes,
we
it would be
I can-
I
amazing.
think that sounds good.
Please, I'll be there.
Welcome back to the Sports Dentistry Podcast. We're back again, Umar. You had an exciting day yesterday. You were looking after the Scotland-Ireland Six Nations game.
Yeah, it was the final game of the Six Nations. A fantastic day, a fantastic game. And, although Scotland came out on top, I really thought that Ireland didn't deserve to lose. Actually, neither team deserved to lose. Watching it pitch side and the fans, and as a fan, firstly, was quite emotional because, I'm quite passionate. Obviously, I'm very passionate about Scottish sport and Scottish rugby. But just watching the skill that was on show from these girls was absolutely outstanding. Toe to toe all the way to the 80th minute. I mean, it was amazing. You've not seen it yet, John, or you've not seen the highlights yet, but I'd really recommend that you look back and when you get an opportunity to watch that, because it was outstanding game of rugby.
Yeah, it's great. And the teams are really building up for the World Cup this year, so I'm sure Ireland will be disappointed the loss, but I think the performances at this stage are probably more meaningful and making sure they're playing at a high level so they can compete well in the summer. I missed it yesterday. Spent the day at a draft watch party. It was a good experience. So the NFL, so the American teams, as you know, the NFL and stuff do the draft every year, where they try to keep the teams as competitive as possible. So the worst placed team gets first pick in the draft, where all the college athletes put themselves up when they're ready to move on from college, put themselves up to be drafted by the professional teams. So the Steelers are doing a big push because they're playing in Dublin. They're playing a regular season game in Dublin for the first time at the end of September. And they did a watch party down in Croke Park. So I went to that, a 2-time Super Bowl champion over, and he did a live draft pick and all from Croke Park. So it was an interesting day. I've got big into American football recently, so I watched the combine and the draft and get tied up in all the stories about how Shakira Saunders didn't go to day 3 and things like that. So that was how I spent my day yesterday.
Yeah, talk us through that, because I was watching some highlights. Obviously, big sport fan, you watch the draft, whether it's the basketball, NFL, that player that you mentioned there, he didn't get picked or something like that. Was that what happened?
Yeah, I didn't get picked. So it's quite interesting when you look into it. So they market themselves very well, and they have to market themselves very well because they're so competitive. So, but he was probably only the 6th person in his position to get picked.
Right.
So where that doesn't sound too bad to us, but for him, he was expecting to go maybe as the best in his position and top. So you have round 1 of the draft, which is where a lot of that main people that think they're going to be successful at that NFL level are going to be picked. And I suppose people that rate themselves highly expect to go in that round. And also, if you go in that round, you get better contracts, so you get better money and better contracts and things like that. So he was expected to go in that round. I think it was more expected from the media and the publicity that was going out. He didn't actually go to round 4 or 5, which was yesterday. And I think that was down a lot to when they actually broke down so they call it, talk about putting a lot on tape, which is like a term we don't tend to use around here, but they talk about putting it on tape, which is really just the coaches looking back at the games and having a look at them and going into a bit more detail about if they thought that he would be able to succeed at the high level. And I think a lot as well, why he didn't go was the personality around it as well. He seems to have quite a strong personality, and he brings quite a lot of attention, and some teams maybe didn't want that attention around. So it's quite interesting when you start to look into things like that, and I suppose that's what sort of encapsulates and keeps you interested in how they keep your attention on it. So it was good. It was good. It was an interesting few days watching the picks go.
I mean, it is a bit of a soap opera, isn't it? It's a business at the end of the day. So kind of build it up and flashing lights, flashing chains, flashing bling, but it keeps the punters interested. So hopefully he does well. He went to Cleveland, right? He went to Cleveland?
Yeah, he's went to the Browns. Yeah, so he could be their next franchise QB, or he could be their next Johnny Football. Do you know Johnny Football? Have you watched the Netflix? Johnny, if anybody does know Johnny Manziel, you need to watch the Netflix documentary on Johnny Football. It's a fantastic story. He says in college football, he only wanted to win because he knew the party would be better if he had won than he didn't win. So that was his motivation. That was his motivation for winning.
That's why he resonates quite well with you then.
Yeah, Johnny Football. It's a fantastic story.
Might have to start calling you Johnny Football Hockey.
So Johnny Football. So that's the Browns. The Browns have took the punt on him. I thought that they support the Steelers, so I thought the Steelers, they were looking at quarterback, and there's a lot of rumor around them taking him, but they didn't take him, and they took the next quarterback, who was Ohio State. They won the national championship, so at least they've got a decent rookie quarterback anyway.
Yeah, very good. So this week I had something very interesting which might humour you. So I had a patient that I was doing a big smile design case for. So I always ask my patients what they would like to listen to. Say, what sort of music would you like to listen to? You can say anything you want. I've got Spotify. She's like, can we put on some 90s classics? I said, absolutely, you can have some 90s classics. So there I am during the appointment, we're about an hour and a half in. This song comes on. Now this song, I was sitting there, it came on, and the punchline for this song, I laughed quite hard underneath my mask. The nurse looked at me and I was like, I'll tell you later. So I'm just going to put it on so you can have a listen, okay? But listen, wait for the punchline. You probably recognize the song.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 99, wear sunscreen. If I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it.
And I just burst out laughing. I was like, John needs to, you probably recognize that song, right?
Recognize it. That's so true. Still true to this day.
It's still true, mate.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Ahead of his time. That song was ahead of his time.
We should maybe put that as our backing track, actually. But yeah, so
very good.
Serpil's episode dropped last week, and the reaction to that has been outstanding. Even my wife was taken aback by just how well she came across, and she said to me, I am going to sign up to Dental Trauma UK.
Yeah, it's great. And she's so knowledgeable. Once you start going into the technical stuff, you can see her passionate about it. And you can just see how much experience she's been able to accumulate over the years when it comes to dental trauma, and how she's so open to be able to pass that on, and so passionate about making sure everybody is able to learn from her experiences and feel confident in treating dental trauma. That's great. That's a great resource. As I said, whenever she presented in Edinburgh, I was like, if UK Sports Dentistry Association can get to where the Dental Trauma UK are at the moment for their support that they have for their members, and such affordable as well. Like it's a no-brainer to be a member with them because of what you get. That really would be hopefully where we can hopefully push UK Sports Dentistry Association to as well.
And she was quite open about willing to share all that information. She's like, she doesn't want to keep any of it. She wants to educate and to give not just the general practitioners, but the general public information on trauma and how to deal with trauma in the immediate aftermath. If it's just a lay person whose tooth gets knocked out, what they can do. Obviously, the video to that, the Save the Knocked Out Tooth, the Selfie Your Smile campaign, which she says she's going to release later on this summer, which will definitely do a lot of backing, a lot of promoting for her. And I just want to say thanks to Serpil for coming on, because I think she's really opened the eyes for a lot of practitioners, a lot of sports dentists about what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And she was talking about how the guidelines are changing. She was talking about how now they recommend an 016 wire rather than 018 wire, but she says that 016 wire is maybe a bit too flexible. She was talking about big balls, small balls, these little things. They're just in your head now. They're ingrained. We're able to use that now going into practice. God forbid somebody has trauma, and you will remember those little bits of information. So I think it was a very, very valuable podcast.
Yeah, definitely. And what I took away was also her tip on using the finger pressure for the reposition of the lateral luxation as well. Some great nuggets there, and just shows you the valuable insights that you would get for being a member of Dental Trauma UK. So that's great. So the last 2 podcasts we've had Anthony from Upper on talking about how he's manufacturing mouth guards in the hope to prevent dental trauma, and then Serpil on in the case of what happens with dental trauma. And our next guest takes that a little bit further as well. We're going to chat a little bit about facial protection as well on top of mouth guard protection.
Yeah, and what better place to go than to go to Brazil? Our next guest, is quite well known in South America, in Brazil, somewhere where I'll be visiting later this year. So quite fascinated to find out just exactly what it is that she does with regards to kind of facial protection following trauma with these face masks. She also does quite a lot of work in a dental hospital in her town, in her city. So I'm really intrigued just to find out how she kind of got into it in South America, because we know that sports dentistry is quite big out there. How she kind of landed on her feet, so to say, in that role, and how she kind of got into the facial protection side of things, and how she does manufacture these face protection, these face guards following trauma.
Yeah, it's going to be good, and just how she's developed the sports dentistry there, not just for herself, but also from an educational point of view for others. I was fortunate enough to be in Brazil for the Rio Olympics.
Very good.
And I had quite an adventure to start off with. So, first of all, at the time, I was working as a chief dental officer of a dental insurance company in Ireland, it was part of an international branch. The lead of the HR was talking to me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to Brazil and going to work at the Rio Olympics." And she was like, "Oh, that's great." Now, sometimes I would go because we have an office in Sao Paulo, and they told us, like, whenever we go to Sao Paulo and we're booking our hotel room, we need to make sure that we book in a hotel room at least level floor number 3 and above. And I was like, "Oh, why is that?" She goes, "Oh, just because there's so many car bombs there, you don't want to be in a hotel room any lower than level 3. And I was like, right, that sounds interesting. So I booked the flights first of all, and I flew into Sao Paulo, and then instead of organising a flight to go from Sao Paulo to Rio to where the Olympics was, I decided to hire a car and see a little bit of Brazil. So arrived there after the long trip. Hire car place was one of these hire car places because it went cheap and cheerful. Wasn't at the airport, so it was like a bus ride away from the airport to the hire car place. Got on the hire car and just started driving. Then I didn't realise there was like loads of tolls on the road, so that was the first challenge. And then I had to pull in for petrol, so I had to go off the motorway, and I forgot that I don't speak any Portuguese. So that was the second challenge. And then when I got to Rio, I'd organised accommodation, and I'd been very fortunate that I'd built up relationships with other ones that had worked at other major competitions in the past. And one of the sports operators, Roselle Johnston, she was there a few weeks beforehand organising it, and she had sorted me out accommodation. So she was at the boxing venue, and I thought, once I get to Rio, I'll park up outside the boxing venue. It was a couple of days before the Olympics starts, so security and all won't be really fully kicked in yet. I'll go meet her, find out what's going on with accommodation, head up, drop the bags off in the accommodation, leave the hired car off, don't have anything to do for 2 days, and then I'll just go and enjoy Rio for 2 days before the Olympics starts. So this was the plan. So I got to Rio. First of all, I dropped off, got my uniform, then headed on up to where the boxing event was, parked outside the boxing event. And the boxing event was like in an area opposite where the athletes village was, and there were a few different sports being carried out there. So I walked into the boxing event, and I was like, "Oh, Ross, how's things?" And how'd you get in here? And I was like, "Oh, it's not really any security about what's the crack with accommodation." So sat for about an hour chatting and catching up. She told me how to find the accommodation. So I walked out, went to go back to car wasn't there. So this is after a long flight, a fairly challenging 4.5-hour drive from Sao Paulo to Rio. And now the car's went missing with all my luggage in it. I had my uniform for the Olympics, and I was like, "What's happened? Where's it went?" And I thought it got jacked. I thought somebody had stole it. So there was like beside where it parked it, just I parked it like the opposite side of the road of where that sort of complex where the venue was. But just at the entrance of the complex was the sort of cars that were going to take people around the competition during the games. So I went in to try to talk to them to see if they had seen anything or if they had cameras. And again, not speaking Portuguese was a challenge. And then eventually somebody that could speak a bit of English started chatting to me, and I was like, oh, I parked it there. I was only away for an hour. What do you think happened? He goes, oh, you would have got it towed. You're not allowed to park around here. So it was towed. So
Right.
then, so this was starting to get late in the evening on this day. So this is maybe like a Monday. I was starting on the Wednesday. I only had the Tuesday off because I was going like on Tuesday I'll go see all the sights of Rio. And so Tuesday came. So I went to the accommodation, got a half a night's sleep. With all the mosquitoes, that was another story. But then the next morning, I spent my only day off trying to find this car. I had to get a taxi. He ended up taking me to the compound, and then you had to get a ticket. Then you had to go to a post office to pay for it. You had to go back, and then I had to get all my stuff to the accommodation, and then get the hired car back to the hired car place, and try to explain to them why I was a day late. So that was my first experience of Brazil.
My goodness, mate, your stories, they are incredible. Incredible. I think every podcast there should be a story about something in your life, because I think that's what the listeners want to listen to. And then if I've got some story, I mean, I've got some great stories, but my goodness, you've taken the biscuit at the minute. That is incredible. So take home messages when I get to Rio: don't hire a car.
Don't hire a car.
Yeah, I won't be hiring a car.
Don't try to park somewhere where you don't know.
So we are looking forward to having our next guest on. So we'll wait for John's next story on the next podcast.
Yeah, I'll leave the story about the way home with the hired car for another podcast. So we'll move on to our next guest. And our next guest, I'm really looking forward to this conversation, because every time we hear Clara, she gives us a different perspective on sports dentistry. Especially the first time I heard Clara speak was at the European Association for Sports Dentistry conference in Athens. And she spoke a lot about the digital work that she was doing, and it seemed to be there a little bit of ahead when it came to digital dentistry and incorporating digital dentistry into sports dentistry. So it was really interesting. And then we had the pleasure of bringing over for our conference we ran in London the next year. So we're really looking forward to this conversation, and particularly understanding how in South America and Brazil, the sports dentist is a little bit more involved with like facial protection compared to what we would be here in the UK and Ireland.
Yeah, because I remember listening to her talk. The Harlequins, the one you were talking about there, and she's quite big into her mouth guards, isn't she? But I think I'm more interested to hear about the facial guards following trauma. I think that's really something that we need to touch on and get a little bit more information about that. So hopefully she'll be able to elaborate on that for us.
Yeah. So let's go. Hey everyone, save the date. The UK Sports Dentistry Association's second conference is happening on Friday the 12th of September at the Voco Hotel in Manchester. And guess what? It's not just about teeth. We're combining cutting-edge sports dentistry talks with the thrill of live sport. Right after the conference, we're heading to Emirates Old Trafford for the England versus South Africa T20 International. Expect a day packed with expert speakers, athlete Q&A sessions, and plenty of time for networking with dentists, sports pros, and athletes alike. Whether you're in dentistry or passionate about sport, this is a day you won't want to miss. Tickets are live now at sportsdentistryuk.com. Grab yours and join us for an unforgettable day. I'm delighted to welcome a guest on the podcast this week, Clara Padilha. Did I get it right? Padilha?
Perfect. Yes.
I can pronounce your name better than I can pronounce Umer's.
We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. The first time that I came across yourself was at the European Association for Sports Dentistry in Athens in 2021, where you were presenting, and you presented a fantastic presentation on the sort of digital advancements you were doing in sports dentistry there in Sao Paulo. And then we had the pleasure of having you over at our conference in London in the Harlequins the following year. And we got to hear a little bit more detail about what you guys are doing. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. But first of all, for the listeners out there that maybe don't know you as well, give us a little bit of a background about where you're from and how you got into dentistry and how you got into sports dentistry.
Perfect. So I'm from Brazil. I am from south of Brazil. As you know, Brazil is a very big country. So I like to put a pin on the map. I'm from south of Brazil. It's still a litoranian city. So it's very sunny here, very warm, very different from Edinburgh. I've been to Scotland twice now, and I love Edinburgh. So everything that I'm talking about here is like from the heart. I love Scotland, but it's so
But it's
cold.
so cold. I know. I agree. And that's coming from an Irishman. It is so cold.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's 9 degrees outside and it's beautiful blue skies. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry.
You're sitting indoors. I know this is an audio podcast, but Umair's sitting indoors with a duffel jacket on. And he's indoors. That's how cold Scotland is.
Conditioner, the air is cold here because outside is really, really hot today. And it's
Oh, you'll
autumn
not.
in Brazil.
Oh well, you'll not see John anywhere near that sunshine in Brazil. So
He can. Yes, he can. It will be dangerous for you, John. Well, so here it's really sunny and it's warm. It's hot actually. So it's a very nice environment to study sports, especially outdoor sports. I started to study sports dentistry while I was still in college. I was an athlete. I was a volleyball athlete for a long time. So when I started college, that part of my life ended because I have to dedicate all my time for dentistry. And then I started to notice that part of athletes and everything about them, their lifestyle, what they eat, how they sleep, everything about that patient specifically were not studied in our field. And I was an athlete, so I knew it was different, our life. So I thought maybe it's something here. And that was like 2007. It was really early on, sports dentistry in Brazil, not in the world, as you know. But here we have like few people talking about that, few schools to actually put that team, that subject on our grades. So I found those teachers and I went to talk to them. One of them was Neidi Koto. I don't know if you heard about her. She's from University of São Paulo, one of our biggest college here in dentistry. So they have the sports dentistry on their grade since 2003. And they have a lot of researches. So I went to them to actually understand if I could work on that. I was still in college, and my biggest doubt was if I really it was a necessity to go to a specialty like that. It was not a specialty. Sports dentistry was not a specialty back then. And then I understand that, yes, I needed to do the course. I needed to study more. I needed to focus more on the clinic and on the theoretical, I don't know if that's the word, theoretical background to understand better how to deal with athletes in the clinic. So that's what I did. Since right before I graduated, I enrolled on a sports dentistry specialty. And then for my luck, it was authorized sports dentistry as a specialty in Brazil right before. So I am one of the first to be like with the, I don't know how to say this in English, like authorized sports dentistry specialty in Brazil. It was one of my in my state specifically. I am the first one. So everything that I studied in college, in the master's degree, and my PhD, it was always in sports dentistry. I understand that sometimes people go for another specialty and then come to sports dentistry, and my whole career was actually inside this specialty. So I'm very lucky about that. I don't know
Brilliant.
if you are able to understand anything that I just said. It was okay?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Your English is
Got you.
better than my English. It's okay. Just you were at undergraduate, so at college we would call that undergraduate. So you're at undergraduate, and you decided then to look into sports dentistry. Were you undergraduate in Sao Paulo, or were you
Oh, no.
undergraduate somewhere else?
Good question. No, my college, I was in Santa Catarina. It's my state, but they didn't have anything to do with sports dentistry. So I had to look it up for another college. I didn't actually go to USP or São Paulo or any other college, but as my own didn't have anything, I have to like search for another teacher, another laboratory, others that could help me with that content in specific.
And then did you relocate to Sao Paulo to do the sports dentistry, or were you able to do that remotely, or how were you able to study the sports dentistry?
I visit them and take all my doubts. They are very accessible, but I complete all my education here in my state. Then after I graduated, then I went to Curitiba, Paraná. It's another state, also south of Brazil. And then there with Professor Linamba, I completed the specialty sports dentistry in 2015.
I think for many of us who get into sports dentistry, either it's because we were athletes ourselves, or we have a family member who's involved with sports. And for me, I'm the same as you. I used to play quite a lot of cricket to a high level, and I had to make the decision between doing dentistry and finishing dentistry or going down the professional route. And then I spoke to my parents. My parents were saying you should finish your education. And nowadays, athletes have to commit 100%. If you want to make it to the top, you need to focus everything to that. A friend of mine, she's actually a dental student in Glasgow, but she's taken a sabbatical. So she's taken time out of her university degree to pursue playing cricket, and she's doing very well. She's been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years. And my understanding is that the university are keeping her position open. I don't know for how much longer, but they've kept it open for at least 2 years now for her to come back to finish her degree, because they want to give her an opportunity to see how far that can take her, because you only really get one chance at it, don't you? And you want to try and take the opportunity. But when you're caught between two of either finishing a degree and then taking the professional route, it's a tough situation to be in. So the next best thing is finish your degree and then get into sports dentistry, which is what you did.
Yes. But I would like to point out that I was not like a great volleyball player, to like pursue my career in volleyball. It's not like that. I was just an athlete. I was like high performance athlete, but I was not, I'm like 171 of my height, I'm not like that tall. So I would never pursue a career in volleyball. I am much more safe in dentistry. That would be like something that I would like to clarify for you. But I think that college is 100% right, because we have to stimulate athletes to pursue their career, and then they can come back and finish their undergraduate, because that person's going to be so she'll have so much understanding about sports in general, and then she can become a dentist who understands sports and understand the athlete's mind and what he demands of dentistry in general. And I think, as you said, we have that background, and that it's exactly what makes us perfect for the job, because we understand that context of what an athlete actually want and need from a health professional, from a dentist. He or she, they don't need a dentist who just looks for the teeth, just look for the trauma. We actually need the dentists who understand that they need to practice and they will not like miss the practice to go to the clinic. They have to eat and they have to eat a specific food. And then maybe that food will be not as beneficial for the health of the teeth. But the dentist, the sports dentist will understand that. Better yet, former athlete will understand that. So I wish that we could have here in Brazil, we could have more as a sports culture in general, as I see in other countries, specifically in Europe and US. They seem to understand that part of the background in sports being something beneficial for the whole development of someone as an individual, because they understand that the sports bring to the person something greater than just like the physical activity, but everything about it, like understanding hierarchy or respect for another fellow colleagues, and understand self-control, maybe something that we actually need in every area of our lives. So I will always be someone who is cheerful for my students in dentistry to pursue something in sports. I always ask them actually if they are doing something for themselves, because we have a career that's really demanding, physical demanding. So if we don't take care of that part, we will also not have a really long career. So for me to combine both sports and dentistry, I know that we have chose that life for our careers, but actually to see that combined in the life of our patients, I think it's the perfect way to see health something really global in one person.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So after you completed your sports dentistry, that was 2015.
Yes.
In your area, it wasn't being taught. Did you develop then a sports dentistry course where you were, or what was the next step? So after you completed to
Well, John,
the
I don't know if you guys believe on that stuff, but sometimes I think we have, I don't know, guardian angels, because I am very, very lucky. I'm a very lucky girl. It seems like the timing in my life it's perfect on that sense, because after I completed this specialty, I come back to I still live in my city that I told you that is sunny and warm and very agreeable. And then back then it's 2015. Yes, different university was building here, and then they called me because they actually had the discipline sports dentistry on their grade. So I didn't have to like present anything. They actually called me and tell me, "Oh, we have this spot." And for me, it was like, how was that even possible? You know, it's like in my city, in I don't know, Guardian Angel, you know. And then I said yes, of course. And then I went there. It's 2016 now, and then we performed the first time the discipline, and it's there till today. It's a lot of athletes being attendant in the clinic, and a lot of students. Their first contact with sports dentistry in general is this discipline. They are always very surprised. Maybe right now not so much because they talk to each other, so now they already understand better what it's about. But the first ones, of course. But I consider sometimes that maybe we are on the right place on the right time, and maybe that's my story.
Yeah, I have a few stories like that. I think there's definitely something out there looking after us or setting things up. Just so, let me just get a little bit more of an understanding. So the university in your city was rebuilding a dental course, and as part of that, they had the sports industry. It's quite interesting because I help out with the postgraduate course at UCL, but we don't actually see athletes in the course. It's more of like a taught course, and it's more a skills lab based course. But you're saying there in your sports dentistry course at the university, you're actually seeing athletes in the clinic, and are the students undergraduate students, or are they postgraduate? Are there undergraduate students that are learning dentistry and
They are,
trying to get a degree in dentistry?
they are undergraduate students. We don't have postgrad here yet. And we have both. We have theoretical classes, we have lab skills, and we also attend athletes, but they don't do all the procedures. It's more like so they can have this contact with like a real athlete, and to see that this is real. This is a patient that everything that we are talking about, theoretical talking about, we need to actually apply in clinic. So they do the mouth guards for those athletes, and it's their responsibility to deliver a mouth guard that the athlete can actually use. So everything becomes a lot bigger for them because they understand that they have that athlete, the health of that athlete is now their responsibility. So it brings another aura for the discipline in general. It's a lot more stressful as well because you have to deal with undergraduate students attending the athlete, and it's on some of the editions of the discipline I cut them off because I was like, no, we cannot do this. But then I understand that it's a difference. It brings a difference for the discipline when we do, But I understand also the risks, so we provide all the support for the athletes afterwards. I always make the joke that the undergraduates they go where I will always stay, so I can do everything that they need actually. But I understand that it brings a lot of stress, much more for me than for all of them. The students, they're happy, and the athletes is way more happy than everybody. So it's a win-win situation. We like to bring athletes that participate in some kind of social activity. We have some partners that we like to work. It's not like they are professional athletes. They are all training to be. And so we like the police here. They have social activities to take some kids off the street and they bring to the police so they can do boxing activities. So we bring that kid to the university to do the mouth guards for them.
That's quite forward thinking by your university to implement a sports dentistry program.
I
And
agree.
you talked about luck. And you talked about luck there. I think the three of us have something in common. We're just at the right place at the right time. And you need that little bit of luck for that stepping stone to kind of get you in, get your foot in there and then to take it on. But that's just the start of it, isn't it? That's basically you've got the foot in the door. Now you need to try and crank it open and try and open the floodgates, which is what this is about, which is why we're getting people like yourself on to hear your story, because there will be somebody else listening somewhere else in the world who wants to do exactly what we're doing at the moment, but they just don't know how to do it. And what I would say to them is you do need a little bit of luck, but you also need to get yourself out there to create that luck too. So the fact that you had an interest in it, and you must have had yourself out there to a degree because they picked up the phone and called you.
Actually, Mayor, you are quite
Well done.
you are quite perfect on that sentence because I heard you talking to Fiona and I understand that she was a little bit lucky as well, if you think about it that way. But I think we heard a lot of stories about right place and the right time, and sometimes they don't follow through. And maybe it's because the person who is on the right place in the right time didn't have the baggage to actually do the job that it's supposed to do. And she told that for you, like really honest. And I really liked that podcast because she told you guys, I was not prepared. I didn't really knew what I had to do. And then I go and I study and prepared and stuff like that. So I think you're really right. And if we are talking to people that might try to do exactly as we did, lucky, it's great, but it has to find you really prepared for the job, right? And I was, because I was already specialized on that field.
Yeah.
I was on my master's degree studying that. It was 2016, but I have been studying athletes since 2007. So I was not like, well, let me see here if this is maybe something nice to, no, I now, and I had that discipline ready to go. I was testing her in my PhD, actually. My PhD was exactly that. We are testing a discipline of sports dentistry on college and on undergraduate students to see how it was presenting, to see what exactly they needed, what kind of lab skills we could provide to them, what kind of abilities actually only dentist would have. So I was prepared for that. I was not like, let me see what I can do with these undergraduates here and athletes and let's make a party. It's nothing like that. So if we are talking to other people who are thinking about that, the first thing that we actually have to do is to be prepared for when luck comes around.
Did you say party?
Yes, I said party.
Yeah, I just saw John's eyes light up. John's eyes just lit up. Party. He's like, okay.
Party! I want to join.
Yeah, but it's like that famous saying, luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
So you were prepared, you had all the knowledge, you had the experience, and then the opportunity arose and you were able to make it work. So that really sums up luck, is the preparation meets opportunity. You talk about the athletes and stuff. I know Brazil is famous for its soccer and the football, and that's where that's from afar, that's what we would see Brazil as the main sport. But like, what are the popular sports in Brazil, and what are the type of athletes that you would kind of see most often? What sports are most popular?
Well, I knew you guys will bring about our soccer. I was prepared for that question, actually. Although soccer in Brazil right now is suffering a lot. And I think we could compare it, soccer in Brazil, to maybe rugby for you guys in terms of popularity and people playing the sports in the streets and everything like that. But actually, soccer was never my first sport to go. And for, I don't know, funny or not, the main sports that I work in Brazil, it's actually rugby as well. So I know rugby is nowhere near to be the sports that you have in Scotland, in Ireland, and Europe in general, but it's growing a lot and it's a perfect sport for a sports dentist. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but it's a really good sport to go as a dentist because we can develop every set of abilities and competence that we have in one sport. So right about when I was getting my master's, for the purpose of research, I went to a field and they were playing rugby. And then I got really interested on the sport. And as you know, the athletes of rugby, they are really nice. They are really polite. So they took the time to actually teach me about the sport. And I think this is really important because then I started to understand the needs for the mouth guard, for the food, for the sleep, for the practice, and all of that. And then I started to work with them since then. And actually, last year, 2024, yeah, after all this time, we made the mouth guards that the female team of rugby were in the Paris 2024 last year. So it was all this construction work with rugby, with the teams here in south of Brazil, and then with athletes individually to culminate on that special moment for us to see our mouth guards on the television on the Olympics. It was really a great moment as a sports dentist, as you could relate, to see your mouth guard on the athletes and they would like doing the tries and being so happy. And then when they smile after that, you see the mouth guard. So it's like a really good moment. So my practice is mostly with collective sports like rugby, basketball, and also with combat sports. Jiu-jitsu is really big here in Brazil, so a lot of them, and boxing and that kind of sports. It's my understanding that a sports dentist doesn't need to work with all the sports and all the modalities because we can't, and we can't really understand all of them. So we can choose. And I don't know if I was chosen or I choose rugby and jiu-jitsu and all of them, but I work mostly with them and not as much with soccer. But lately, the athletes of soccer, they're coming to us, especially because of the face guards. It's a necessity for them. So now I am not really looking for them, but they are looking for us to do that. Here in Brazil, face guards are a dentist's responsibility. Not exclusively, but it's a dentist's responsibility. And last time, actually, John, when I went to the UK meeting that we had, I presented one of them. And I was so innocent because I thought that that was a responsibility for dentists everywhere. And then I looked to your faces and I was like, oh my God, what I just did, what just happened here. I was so scared because I thought, oh, well, I don't know. And then one of you told me, no, we don't actually do that. And I was really sad that day. But then that's okay. But here in Brazil, we make the face guards for the athletes. And so right now, when we talk about soccer specifically, that's because mouth guards, they're not really popular in soccer, but face guards, it's more.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That was something I was hoping we were going to discuss. That it seems to be in South America, like so Brazil, when it comes to face masks, that's very much like a dentist responsibility and a dentist do it, where in Europe it's not at the same level. So just could you talk us through, just for our listeners, and especially if there's listeners from the UK, just talk us through that process. So if a soccer player comes to you and they need a face mask, talk us through that process, that initial conversation to fitting them with the face mask.
So maybe I will start talking about why they need one, just so we can align something. We know the athletes, they work a lot and they work more when they're on the field doing what they practice to do. So when they got some facial bone break, they have to go outside the field. They can't compete because they are recovering. So the face guard, the face shield, it's there to make this athlete come back sooner. so they don't have to wait all that time of recovery to come back to the field, to come back to their activities. They can come back early because the face shield is now responsible to break any object that comes to the face of the athlete and to absorb that energy, that impact, so we can protect the athlete from another trauma, another break, another fracture on that region. When this happens and the athlete needs a surgery, or maybe not, sometimes the last one that we did, the athlete did not go for surgery reduction, so that's a possibility. They come here and we do, as you call it, mold of the face. That's the word, mold.
Yeah, mold. Yeah, and do you do that with what do you use to
Net.
take the mold, Alison? Do
It's
you have the way we would take Alison an impression of the mouth? We would have a custom tray to hold the alginate. What do you use when it comes to the face?
the face. The face. The face of the athlete is our custom trait. We use alternate. That's an activity that is best do in 2 dentists or more, okay? Because it has to be really fast, because the feeling for the athlete's not like it's now really nice. So we want to be fast. So we use the alternate on the face, and then this alternate, it can be a little loose. So we put some gauze, gauze, wet gauze, like,
Yeah.
what is the word for the costume model of Jesus? We do the mold in alternate, and then we pour in the
Or
mold.
the stone.
The stone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we put gauze with a little stone to make the whole mold a little more rigid, so we can take it off of the athlete face a little more firm. And then we put the stone inside to make like a face of stone of the athlete. And then on that stone face, we make the face guard with EVA as well. The same material that we do mouth guards. And then it's all about the fixation on the head of the athlete, and they can go to the field to work.
And so the area that they're maybe trying to protect, whether it's the nose or the cheekbone, would you put a little bit of space in between the EVA and the face, or do you have it touching the skin? Would you make the
No,
EVA?
we make a little bit of space, especially because sometimes when the athlete comes, it's a little edema yet from the fracture or from the surgery. So we put this space, and it's, as we can fixate, we can like pull a little bit harder or loosen up a little bit to be a little more comfortable. But in general, the face guard is really like personalized, so it can fit right in your face. It's not like it was boil and bite mouth guard that is like away from your anatomy. This kind of face guard is really like, it's your face and it's really fit on. Something that we are developing or in researching here and developing, it's a way to make all that process better for us and for them. And the main goal is to eliminate that part of mold. It's the most unagreeable part. So when we go to digital flow, was actually to use those tools so we can like eliminate the mold part, the impression of the face part. And we actually find way better solutions, and now we can use that. So like that part for me is like solved with digital tools. We today can have the impression of an athlete in Edinburgh, and you can send to me, and I can make the face guard for you, analogic or maybe digital, because last year we printed the face guard without any other physical aspect beforehand. So all the process, all the flow was digital until the face guard in our hands. We did the mouth guard before, and so we have this process well established. But it was the first time that we did a face shield, a face guard, and we were really happy with the result. In special because a lot of the residuals, a lot of the materials, and if we think about post-pandemic world, biosecurity as well, the digital flow can provide that for us. So right now is something that I'm spending a lot of time, a lot of my energy on trying to understand how we can make these kind of flows, how we can make this kind of protocol easier for us. When we go and work with sports, one of our disadvantages is our location and athletes always traveling and stuff like that. So maybe the digital process can help us with that as well. I can have an athlete here that I can make a digital impression and send to John, and we can have these kind of records of our athletes. So I think we are looking for a lot of potential here in all of our fields, especially with these protection devices that we are developing, but in other fields as well. I think when we're talking about face guards, digital process can be a way better process and can provide us a lot more beneficial than mouth guards digital process. So face guard is something that we really could study a little bit more. And maybe if we can develop a digital process that is comfortable for dentists, maybe to be a little more popular in Europe as well. And maybe you can start doing with more security.
Yeah. So the barriers for the digital process with the face, because obviously when we use intraoral scanners, they can pick up the gingiva and the gums, so they would be able to pick up the skin, I'm sure, and the profile of the face. Okay, barrier the fact that there was maybe no software there designed to provide a model, a 3D printed model of the face. Was that what your challenge was, to try to move from an alternate impression of the face to a digital? Was it more the software than the actual scanning?
First, it was the scanning process, but that part was resolved a lot more faster than I was expecting, because they, they developed a scanner for the aesthetic field. And here they call orofacial harmonization. I don't know if you guys have that. So that is a really popular field here in dentistry in Brazil. And they developed for that area a facial scanner. And that scanner could link up the external part with the internal scan of the teeth. So they can proportional better anyway. So I was at my university and I saw that and I thought, wow, if they can do that for harmonization, they can scan a face for me. So I went there and 12 seconds, 12 photos, we have the perfect scan of a face. Because I tried with other equipment before and it was a total disaster. I tried even with the intraoral scan to scan the face and it was really, really bad. So we have a really good result with that scanner. And then I started to think that we needed another solution because that one didn't solve the problem that I just told you about the thing that athletes are from everywhere. So to do a face scan, you would have to come to me or to someone that actually has that scan. So now we have technology good enough to make a facial scan with the cell phone. So if you, John, you could take your phone and of course it has a strict protocol that you have to follow, but you could make a scan, a video with your phone, and we could translate that video to STL archive, and on top of that archive, we could design the face guard here in Brazil. So that actually is digital for me. This is like easing up, making our lives easy. That's what we could be talking about when we say, oh, let's go digital. Of course, but we have to make the dentist's life easy, practice, and cheaper, not the other way around, you know? So now I think we are going to a really good solution with that. Taking your phone, making a video of your athlete on your locker room, and bringing to us this video, go to the laboratory where the face guard is designed, and then you receive your face guard back on your club, on your sports club.
I'm pretty sure I had something like that done recently because I've just been sized up for some new loops, and the guy that was taking the scan was asking me to do all these movements, this and left and right and looking down and up. And that was on a phone, so that technology is there somewhere. And if we're in a position where we're able to do that here, like you just said, in a locker room, send that directly to you, and then you can fabricate it, or your lab can fabricate it and send it back to us. That's the digital workflow right there.
Yes. And actually, Imer, I'm going to use your name in every opportunity that I can, just so one can understand how your name is pronounced. So,
Yes, please.
Yeah.
sorry. You bring something interesting. That development of the, like, I move around, I go down, I go up, that brings a lot of distortion for the archive. So and then we study that as well. So the better way is when the athlete is still. So then he will be still, and then we move around with the phone, and the other scanner that I told you about, that is the big one. Also, they remove the distortion because of that, because the athlete still, and then the scanner do the photos, you know? So that's something that we started to see, because then John talked about the space that we have to leave in the face guard. And so when we have this kind of distortion, that space starts to be a little more messy. So it's better when the athlete is still. But yes, the digital flow, it would be exactly this. We could talk about partnerships with US laboratories, with you guys or us, or maybe just you, John, being on the locker room on the rugby team and sending to the laboratory your own, you know, but just making the whole process faster and really more padrones, padron.
Efficient.
It was not that word, but I would just,
Oh.
well,
You're close.
okay, you guys. But that's the
And have you been able to roll that out locally? Are you in a position now where soccer teams close to you, their medical team is able to do that scan and send it to you? Are
Yeah.
you at
we're
that
not
position?
we're not using the digital flow as practice of, like, oh, the athlete. We're not really using this process for the athlete that is in the field yet. And it's not because of the digital flow. It's because of the resin. It's because of the material that we have for the printed face shield. Although we have mouth guard resins that you know about, we already have that kind of material available for us. They are really early as well. We have a lot of tests to do with that kind of material to compare it to the material that we use so far in analogic mouth guards. So I like to study our possibilities to see what we can provide to our fellow colleagues, but I am not telling that right now that's a possibility because we don't have the appropriate material to work on. They are not really extensively tested. We don't have a lot of numbers on the question about shock observation impact, how they can really absorb that kind of impact. So maybe just a little more patience so we can have the whole process really well established. But we have the flow. We know how to do that and we see the advantage of the process. Now what we can invest on is on the research of the material, and then we will have the whole process.
And would you 3D print the face and use the face as a model to make it, or do you prefer to use the alginate and stone?
Well, to print the face, it will give me the same work as print the face guard. And I don't see really the purpose on printing the face, but that's me. I don't see the purpose of spending so much time and energy and money on a face made of resin that maybe doesn't have resistance to hold the temperature of the fire that we have to use to make the face guard. So if I already will have to make a process that is analogic, then I prefer to do the whole process analogic. When I spend my time studying digital flow, I want to make a digital flow, a whole process that will actually eliminate all the physical analogical parts of the process and then give me a digital impress, a 3D printed mouth guard, a 3D printed face guard. Then for me, that makes sense when we actually can apply digital to our endeavor.
And so when you're making the face guard with the EVA, I presume a different thermoforming machine than you use for the mouth guard due to the size of the size, the diameter of the face that you need to cover, because it wouldn't fit in the same machine. So do you have it? So you have a different thermoforming machine for creating the EVA. And how thick do you make it? Do you make it similar to a mouth guard? Do you use multi-layers? Do you use single layers? What's that process?
Two both good questions. So we have a machine that is big enough to size up a face guard in Brazil, but I don't have one of those. I made them by hand with how you call it. It's not like a blowtorch of fire, but it's like a wind, really hot wind, like.
Hair dryer.
But it's not that. But it's like.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's like one of those. I do the whole process manually. So with one of those, we will find out the word later. I will send you on WhatsApp, and then you can add it here in this episode. And then we go molding the EVA on the face cast that we made previously, and then they go molding. So they have exactly the face of the athlete because of the thermal plasticity. And the other question the thickness, right? So we made the face guard 3 to 4 millimeters of thickness, especially in the region of the fracture. So it's like cheekbone or maybe nose. So 4 millimeters on that part. Face guard is actually made of 2 layers of EVAs. The internal one is a little more soft EVA, similar to the mouth guard EVA that we use, and the external one is a little more rigid. So they have different responsibilities. The external one is responsible to break the object that is coming for the athlete, and the internal one is responsible to absorb and dissipate this impact to not concentrate on the region of the bone fracture. So it has to be different materials of different rigidness. That's the word.
Yeah, very good. That's really interesting. That's something that we don't do, and it's now a great tool for sports dentists to have to be able to provide that support. At least do you mainly find it being used in soccer, or is there other sports that you find it can be used in, or is it mainly something that has become traditionally used in soccer?
I think we are really used to see more in soccer because soccer is a sport that is really seen. But you could remember that a lot of athletes of NBA, basketball players, also use that, and they are not from Brazil. So a lot other professionals are making that kind of face guard all around the world. So I think there's a lot of potential in basketball and soccer because those sports move a lot of money. So when we are talking about bringing the athlete faster to the field, it's because they are worth a lot. Because if if we didn't have this money issue, we could wait to the athlete to recover, and then he could come back to do the sport. But when we talk about soccer, maybe rugby as well, and basketball, we are talking about matches that cannot be lost because they are really important and they are playing in that time. So we have to have that athlete available on that time. So I think that's the reason why we are seeing face guards more used on that kind of modality. But the use is exactly a mouth guard. It could be in any kind of sports that the athlete presented with a bone fracture and now he have to come back to do the activity. Maybe in some sports of combat, it would be a little more, it would be difficult to implement because they have a lot of like contact really in the face. So that kind of arthritic, the kind of moving around on that region could be prejudicial. But the other sports, face guard could be really, really improvement for the athlete in general.
Yeah, the first thing that an injured athlete says is, when can I get back to play? When can I get back out there? And if we can facilitate a return to play faster within safe limits, obviously it needs to be approved by the medical staff as well. I think it's a win-win situation. And I think certainly here in Europe, there's definitely a scope there for us to be more involved with being able to make face masks for athletes who have had a trauma, fracture, etc. So it's interesting you're quite heavily involved in that out there, and it's something that hopefully someone listening in Europe might put their hand up and say, well, let's try and make something of it here. So it's really interesting to hear your journey in that space.
Oh, I think you have to do that. Like a lot. You have a lot of fields for this kind of work. And I'm pretty sure that once European dentists start to do this, you like develop this way more faster than us. You have a lot of equipment and the tools and the people to do that. So I'm looking forward, and anything that I could help you on, just call me.
Sounds good. So how is everything at the moment? You have the teaching going on to the undergraduates in the university. You also have Atlas Research. Is that linked with the university, or is that something separate that you do?
That's something separate, not so separate, but separate, that I do with my partner, Elena Fronza. You met her as well on the degrees meeting. And that's our channel of communication of our work, of something that we are developing, researching here. We are not like you, John. We really like Instagram. We really I think Instagram and all of social network actually is something that we could use with care, of course. But for us, that kind of communication with other dentists, with athletes, a little more light, perhaps. But it's a way of for them to see what we do, to see the importance of what we do, and to enroll in sports dentistry in general. So we use athletes to do that. We use athletes to communicate everything that we are talking about here, because I could study digital flow here in my private practice in the university and just keep that for me and for my patients. But I think it's way better when we can talk to the world about it. And the way that we chose to do that is through Atlas. So Atlas today is this communication channel that we chose to say exactly that. What we study, what we stand for, what we can do for you as an athlete, and what we can teach you if you are a dentist that is interested in this field.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. And communication is so important about getting that across. So that's a really interesting way of how you're being able to develop that to talk to other dentists and talk to athletes. That's been really fascinating. I've learned so much, especially about the face masks and how you are so far ahead of us in that field. Is there anything, have you any big events coming up this year? Is there anything you're looking forward to? Have you any sporting events that you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to being able to go to Mexico next year to see the World Cup and to drink a little bit of tequila. I think that would be nice. Yeah.
I think we could do a podcast in Mexico.
I think that
I think
would be
I
amazing.
think that sounds good.
Please, I'll be there. But also, I'm really looking forward to the Düsseldorf meeting that we have in November.
You're coming to Dusseldorf?
I'm coming to Düsseldorf.
Are you coming?
And
Yes.
Dr. Thanos, he asked me to speak about face guards. You guys,
Brilliant.
yeah. So right now, I'm preparing for that. And when I say that I'm preparing the material for it, but I'm also trying to improve my English like a lot for do that is as well. I will be speaking English to German people, so I really need to concentrate. But the theme this year, the subject of the class will be face guards. So today was really good conversation because I already picked some of your doubts, so we can talk about that. And I will try to really focus on the digital flow of the face guard. I hope in November we already have a lot of developments, especially in the material part. So maybe that part of like implementing the process, it will be a little more, let's go, we can do it now.
Well, the good news is that John and I will both be in Dusseldorf, and we've been given the green light to record a podcast there as well. So we might even do a live podcast, who knows? But certainly at that time, whatever research you have, you can let us know. We can get you on. You can let the world know where you're at with that side of things, because I'm sure there'll be people who won't be able to make it to Dusseldorf. But it sounds like it's going to be a fantastic meeting there. So we're very much looking forward to improving our English as well, so we can speak clearer to the Germans too. So that makes 3 of us. But it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful event.
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
really,
it's going to
really
be great.
excited for that. Yeah.
So I think that's been fantastic. Thank you so much, Clara, for your time and for enlightening us to your path in sports dentistry and showing us what you guys are doing in Brazil. And it's really made me start to think about how I can start to improve the range of support that I can give athletes, and particularly the face masks, and that's really interesting. So thanks very much for coming on and sharing your story.
No, right. Thank you, guys. Thank you a lot for this opportunity. Thank you for being really, really, really kind to my English today and helping me with the words that I completely forgot and I will remember 5 minutes from now. I'm sure of it. And actually, I would like to congratulate you guys for this brilliant idea. Podcast it's one of my favorite communication channels as well. I love to hear in the car, in the traffic, So I think you guys have a lot of potential with this sports dentistry podcast. I really enjoy to participate. I hope people enjoy to listen to our 3 horrible English that we have. A little bit of what we talked about today. But we understood each other, so
We understood.
No, you're very kind there, Clara. No, I'm saying that's the reason why we're doing this. And I know I've said this quite a lot of times, but it's to give people like you an opportunity to get out there and explain what it is that you're doing, where your passion lies, so we can all take a leaf out of your book. Like John just said there, you've inspired him, you inspired me. I think I need to start looking at that in terms of the face mask, certainly here in Scotland, because I'm not sure where that would get done. So I'll need to look into that as well. But these are the sort of inspirational things that we need to hear and other people need to hear as well, because to be honest with you, I've not even really thought about that side of the sports dentistry, and I'm so heavily involved in it. So it's interesting that you've come on and said that, because now all of a sudden I'll go away and think, actually, how can I become more involved and have another string to my bow to take to the sports medical team and say, actually, if this happens to a player or an athlete, you can get in touch with me because I know somebody who can help me get the equipment that it is that you need. So thank you very much. It's been excellent. And I understood you the whole time. I had to kind of zone in and out when John was speaking, but you first class.
really, really kind of you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Clara. Thank
That's
you.
good. Thanks very much.
We are delighted to have Ionate as a sponsor for the Sports Dentistry Podcast. Are you looking for a water bottle that's built to keep up with your active lifestyle? Look no further than Ionate, the totally leak-proof water bottles with triple lock technology to prevent spills no matter where you're headed. With a simple one-touch opening mechanism, you can sip on the go without hassle. Plus, Ionate's sleek, modern designs are not only functional but can be personalized just for you. Made from high-quality steel, these bottles are easy to clean, and best of all, they're sustainable. From 320ml to 1200ml, Ionate has the perfect size for you, whether you're just out for a jog or going on a long hike. And it doesn't stop at water bottles. Ionate also has travel mugs and flasks to keep your drinks just right wherever you are. Ionate is the official water bottle supplier to the British and Irish Lions on their tour to Australia this summer, and are the official water bottle supplier to the NFL, so you know you're getting the best. I have been using their bottles for a long time now and cannot recommend them highly enough. So head over to www.ionate.co.uk to get your hands on the best bottles in the business, bar none. Now back to the pod.
So that was a great chat we had there with Clara, like particularly the stuff about the facial protection and how involved they are with it. And also we got a sense of, I spoke before she came on about digitally, the stuff they're trying to do digitally, how it's maybe a little bit ahead of what we're trying to do. And you can see the way that they are trying to look at digital solutions for the facial guards as well, to try to remove that step of having to take alginate impressions of the face?
Yeah, well, as we know, dentistry is moving forward and it is pretty much going towards fully digital. Her experience with regards to using digital facial recognition and being able to make a face card on top of that was interesting. I actually quite like the way she talked about how they would traditionally take the impression of the face using alginate that we would use to take impressions in the mouth anyway, but then using wet gauze to help that stiffness. Because obviously when the player's getting an impression taken of the face, what I thought about was how they're going to be able to breathe, but I assume that they're doing it in such a way where the setting time is quite fast, but they need to make sure that the impression is rigid enough so when they cast it up, there's no distortion, no discrepancies. So it was quite interesting to hear kind of how they have been doing it and then how they're looking to do it going forward, because I assume taking a facial scan or a facial recognition will be obviously so much easier because you don't have to worry about something setting too quickly or having to redo it again and for it being messy. So it was quite good to hear that side of things as well.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah, it was a little bit challenging to try to understand exactly, what, as I said, what are you using for the alginate to hold the alginate and set the face, so it's just trying to get that understanding. And then obviously it's a very similar process to the conventional way of making mouth guards, or what, as we spoke about with Anthony from Upro, sort of what we would call the analog way, where we're taking an impression, we're pouring the stone model, we're thermoforming the mouth guard around the stone model. It's the same concept, only we're doing it for the face.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that interesting.
In terms of face guards in Europe, have you any experience from your side of things?
No, not. I did have a request one time, and I reached out to Sophie Canatieri, which I definitely did not pronounce her second name correctly there. But Sophie, who would have looked after the French national soccer team, and she sort of sent me a few links to the people that they would use for it as well. And I know in the last World Cup or the European Championships, I think it was the World Cup, was it the last big competition, where Mbappe got the contact to the face in the first game, and he was wearing a mask for a little bit as well. So I think as well we're going to hear, hopefully, Clara speak on it Dusseldorf conference as well, so that's going to be interesting as well. And I know there's a few companies based quite close to Dusseldorf that do manufacture these facial masks, so it's going to be interesting to get a bit of conversation there as well. So I think it's another great arrow in the bow for sports dentists. It's another tool that we can offer. We talked about, when we had Fiona on, we talked about how we can use our suturing skills to help out with superficial lacerations of the face and the body as well, and how that can help give an extra bit where we can help the medical team. And this is possibly something else that we can provide as well, like the thermoforming technique from making a mouth guard. We know it very well. It's just really getting that sort of impression of the face and sort of the design that we probably need to get a wee bit of education on and learn a wee bit about how best to design it from a comfort and ensuring that it's sitting in the correct place to provide the protection that it needs. But it's definitely an area where we have the skill set. If we just adjust it slightly to a different part of the body, that we'll be able to support that athlete in.
Yeah, I think it's a space that we need to explore. So hopefully in the lead up to Dusseldorf, we can hopefully get some more information about that and about, first of all, the correct technique. So maybe diving into Clara a little bit more about how to take a correct analog impression of the face, and then digitally as well, what sort of, apps do you need to use, or what sort of software do we need to use? Because if we can approach medical staff and say, look, we have the ability to be able to make face mask protection following some sort of trauma, then you can be the go-to person for that. And then it's trying to find about what labs can use it. And I know that maxillofacial units in the UK, certainly they'll have one of the hospitals I used to do a little bit of Max work for did have a technician on site. So they would make the face mask once, but it's not somewhere that you could send an athlete to because it's within the NHS system there. So I think there could well be an opportunity for, if there are labs that are doing that we don't know of because we're based in Europe, obviously, but if there's labs anywhere else in the world who are doing things like that and they want to reach out to us and to let us know the process that dentist or a maxillofacial surgeon needs to use, then please reach out and let us know. We'd be really keen to hear from you as well. So I think it's certainly something that we can add to our repertoire, and it just helps build the sports dentistry up that little bit more, that little bit further, just to kind of continue to sneak our way into the sports medical team with a little bit of extra that maybe other people aren't doing at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It gives an extra bit of support. Like there is, I suppose that's the challenge of if we're using labs. You're going to have the same challenge with any alternate impression and whether it keeps and stuff like that. Like I'd make my own mouth guards for some athletes, and I would have some performing. I have the Drev edge from that scanner, but the sheets are 120 mil round sheets that go in that, so I don't think they're going to be big enough to be able to provide the full surface of what you'd need for the face. So that's probably another consideration as well, that although we'll be able to take the Alzheimer's impression and we'll be able to pour up that Alzheimer's impression and get a stone model of the face, we may not have, from in a dental perspective, from the normal mouth guard thermoform machines, we may not have the dimensions needed to be able to produce that face guard. So it's maybe looking at that as well, maybe trying to source a lab that has, and it's probably a select few labs that would have it. So it'll be interesting to see if we can develop that.
Yeah, she also talked about the material as well, didn't she? She took the material that's actually on the fitting surface and then the material that's on the outer surface as well. And obviously where the trauma is, how there's a little bit of a cushion or there's a little bit of space around that area. Say if it was in the zygoma, there's obviously a little bit of extra space there, or if it was in the mandible, whatever it is. So I think it's being able to understand how they are being made. And obviously it's being custom made, but you need to understand what the trauma was, where the fracture was, if they've had surgery, if they've been plated, you need to try and protect that. What sort of material do you need to use in that specific area? Is that area meant to have a different type of material over it compared to the rest of it? That opens up another avenue and a whole different conversation, doesn't it? So it's nice that Clara has actually touched on that. And I think we could potentially have a whole podcast on that. So as time goes on, if there are people that reach out and say, look, they have a little bit more information on it, and even Clara is doing a lot of more work on it. So, we can always get her back onto the podcast in the future. If she says, look, there's been a breakthrough, I want to tell people about it. We're more than happy to obviously get Clara back on. Another thing that she talked about was how she was in the right place at the right time. And she said that the university had obviously opened up the sports dentistry program and they contacted her, and she was just in the right place at the right time. And she'd been doing the work and they approached her. And I found that fascinating as well, because they obviously knew about her and about the work that she was doing. So it just goes to show you just don't know who's listening. You don't know who's looking at your work and looking at what you're doing. There could be a company or somebody out there or a university out there who are thinking about creating some sort of program. But if you continue to strive to make yourself better and to immerse yourself into sports dentistry, if that's what you want to do, there could be an opportunity waiting for you around the corner.
Yeah, definitely. We've heard it from all our guests about how it's up to them. They put themselves out there to get their role started. Fiona with the ticketing officer, Thanos with the agent, Anthony with 100 emails and he got one reply. And Serpil, who wanted to get involved, she saw that there was a lack of support for adult dental trauma support, so she wanted to get involved as well and was motivated about getting involved as well. So it's all about really just putting yourself out there, and you never know who's, as you said, never know who's listening or who's watching, that will open up an opportunity for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what this platform is designed for as well. So people who are listening to it and they want to try and do something in their own city, their own village, their own country, their own continent, we want to be able to provide that opportunity for them to then build on, get their facts and experience across. And we really hope that when we do meet these individuals in person at the various conferences, we'd love to hear their stories and to see how it's hopefully positively affected their career in sports dentistry. Because I think that's something that we can learn from as well. We say every day is a school day, and I really do enjoy listening to other people's certainly success stories. And if there are hardships, we want to hear about that as well, so we can overcome that and we can try and help them overcome any sort of difficulties that they're having. I'm really passionate about that because, I'm very grateful, obviously, for meeting you and for meeting Fiona and all the other sports dentists as well, because I wouldn't be where I am without all you guys. sometimes sit back and I think, my goodness, like I've been doing this, nearly 10, 11 years. You've been doing it 15, 16 years. And I'm just like, could you imagine where we're at right now, all that time ago, where it was so small, but now it's really starting to take an upward trajectory. And there's a lot of people pulling in the same direction. And, sports dentistry is a small community. We want to help support each other in various ways. And I think as that starts to grow, that compound effect with that will hopefully then lead us to where sports medicine is now as being a recognised specialty.
Yeah, definitely. It's about pulling everybody together and moving in the right direction. Like it is, like I would never thought of how much opportunities there would be in sports dentistry when I first started. As I've mentioned before, it was a struggle just to even try to find some way of getting education in sports dentistry when you first wanted to get into it. But now the opportunities are endless, and it's just there's more and more awareness. And even next week we'll have the Isokinetic conference, which is based in Atletico Madrid, which is sort of the big sort of sports medicine conference for people involved with soccer. And we have 3, maybe even 4 sessions which involve sports dentistry at that 2 to 3 day conference. So it really is growing, and that awareness is getting there, and it helps when you have high profile examples like the Barcelona football manager, about how he's so passionate about the sports dentistry support, and also the likes of even Joey Barton, his rants and stuff like that. That all sort of helps just bring eyes on sports dentistry and the benefit of having it.
I think the aim has to be these sports medicine conferences is they ask us to get involved, or they ask sports dentistry to give a piece on whatever it is they ask us to do it on. I think that's where we start to realize that we're starting to make a difference, is when the sports medicine conferences around the world start to then ask their local sports dentists, look, we've got this conference. I think it'd be really, really useful for you to come and give talk on whatever it is, like you said, for next weekend. I think that's a really good step in the right direction. Now, sports medics, as well as any healthcare person, they talk. So the sports medics that are there, they'll be like, actually, that's really interesting. And they'll go back to their own countries and be like, actually, do you know what? I heard the sports dentist talk about this. I think we should try and get them involved here. I think that's what's going to make the difference, is about individuals like that who are going to hear our colleagues talk and be like, that makes so much sense. We need to implement that into our own federation or our own professional organization. I think that's what's going to make the difference. So, we're going to back our colleagues who are going to hopefully go and give excellent presentations next weekend. So we wish them all the best of luck for that.
Yeah, definitely. So that's us for another pod. Rumour.
Yeah, there's
got
one.
It right. It's almost rolling off the tongue now.
Oh my
Rumour.
God, yes, I can hear it.
You know what I mean?
I can hear it. Yeah, that's it. There was one part of the conversation with Clara that I just wanted to highlight, where your ears perked up and you sat upright when she mentioned the word tequila and Mexico.
Yes, tequila, Mexico. There is rumblings. There is rumblings. Cancun is going to be the host of Super Sports Dentistry Conference.
Can you let the listeners know a little bit more about that, or?
Well, we're still investigating it, but it'll be 2027. If things come off, we're looking at possibly 2027 doing a collab between the ASD and the EFOSD with support from our South American colleagues. And I've had a chat to some people, some sports dentists that are based in Mexico that might help us with the feet on the ground for organising it. So hopefully we can bring that together, and that'll be a great opportunity to bring as many people together from North America, from South America, from Europe, from everywhere else that can make it, because Cancun's quite a good international airport and a spot for people to get to. So hopefully we can have a really good conference there for bringing people together.
Yeah, well, I think I'll try and keep my excitement levels quite low at the moment, because if I get too excited, then if it doesn't happen, I'll just deflate. So,
well, you are going to Brazil at the end of the year, so you just focus on getting home safe from that.
yeah. No, I will. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I've heard so many good things about it. Obviously, you need to be safe and stuff like that. But look, ultimately, it's the same in any country you go to. Any country you go to, it's got its pros, it's got its cons. I'm just looking forward to having the sun back, playing a bit of cricket, meeting the locals. We'll see what happens. But guys, I hope you enjoy listening to this episode of the Sports Industry Podcast with Clara, and we look forward to welcoming you on next week's episode. Cheers, buddy.
Definitely. Cheers. I'll see you soon.